Hello, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I got a story for you today. I think you're going to find super interesting. And the title here, coming from a Facebook post, was "Think Back to When You First Moved Here," and that's what the ex-wife had told me one time while we was married during our short 3-month marriage. Was think back to when you first moved in here, as in there was clues into this house that when I first moved here that would reveal, this home being rigged for the crimes and murders. And so just to give you a short history, and this isn't part of the read, but I'm in Hobbs, New Mexico as a 25-year company man with DCP Midstream, hired on with Phillips Petroleum back in the 80s. Okay. My daughters had just moved out, so I was an empty nester, a recent, and of course a single dad. My to-be supervisor, Dane Wiggins, come to me and asked me if I would look at this job over here in Midland. Okay, I now believe that Dane has information on these crimes over here, and he was living over here at the time. But anyways, I looked. I didn't bid on the job because it wasn't a promotion. And then he called me back and asked me why, and I told him, I said, well, this, it's not even a promotion. Moving's a big deal, and so then he goes back and he has the job changed to be a promotion and rebuilds it. Okay, I feel like they were trying to get me over here to Midland. I believe that, and I believe there's people in my company that are connected with this crime ring. I'd reported 5 people in my company knowing who was breaking my house. 6 months before I'm ambushed and shot. Inside my home. But anyway, so there was a vendor that was over here in Midland, Kurt Westmoreland, I think his name, Westerman, and worked for, I think, ESI. And he used to come by the office, and he said a friend that had a house on Todd Road, and it was for sale by owner. I went over there and looked at it. We made a handshake deal, and so I was going to buy that house. I was going to sell my Hobbs home, move to Midland, buy that home on Todd Road. And then right before I was ready to move, the guy on Todd Road, Harris was his name, he sells this home to another guy for cash money. Okay. And so that left me in a bind because I was already moving and then I had nowhere to move, and so, it was suspicious too. It's like I'd been sabotaged. That home wasn't on the market, wasn't listed for sale, and, it wasn't even a for sale sign in the front yard. And he said some guy just come knock on his door and then offered him a little bit more money than we get offers. And the guy's name was Molinar. I would later see where it looked like my next door neighbor's truck was parked at that house, and this suspicious car that was parked in front of my house I saw parked at that house on Todd Road. I've made videos about that before too. But anyway, that deal fell through, forced me to get a realtor. I got Janine Pruitt. She showed me 5 or 6 homes. Most of them were junk. This was the best one of the bunch. She showed me this home before it was listed. But we could only look at the outside of the home. Okay. And then on the first day to look at the home, me and her walked through the house and take pictures, and that's where this picture comes from, and that's where this story starts right now. Okay, so I think back to when you first moved here. I'm gonna show you the pictures of this house when I first looked at it, my realtor, before I bought it. Mike Lawhon was still alive at that time, but not for long. Okay, so I'm gonna start this read. The ex-wife told me one time, think back to when you first moved in this house. I said there were clues here about this home being rigged. This picture was taken October 1st, 2008, my first day to look at this house with my realtor, and that's almost 13 years ago, just a few days away. The previous owner, Mike Lawhon, was still alive, but only for 12 more days. I believe they murdered him here because the oil show parties were going to start the next week in the backyard. Okay, and then I want to say that I looked at this home, I made a bid for it, and Mike and Sarah made a counter bid. It was too much money, and I walked away from the deal, and I said no. And then my realtor calls me up and said that Mike had died, had died of an overdose, and that Sarah would drop the price. It was like $35,000 if I would agree to buy it. The ex-wife later told me you were chosen to buy this home. See, I think Sarah Lawhon knows something about it too, because she dropped that price just an incredible amount. I only paid $130,000 for it, and she dropped the price $35,000 just so I would buy it. And then I was told you were chosen to buy this home. Okay. So, anyways, I think I copied and pasted from that point down. Let me look. Okay. And yeah, I'm sure from this point down we'll just read it off into paragraphs. I'm gonna show you this first picture. Okay, this is the living room on October 1st, 2008, when I first moved here. And then here I wrote at the top. This picture is taken, October 1st, my first day. Look at the home. Previous owner would be dead 12 days later. The former neighbor told me twice that Mike had died in this house, and she said that somebody else had died here before him. Maybe that other guy was shot where that rug was at. Okay, and so the neighbor was Marilyn Dlugi, lived at 3803 Fair Circle, directly across the street. And what I'm saying is, after I bought this home, and I come in here and I pulled that rug out, because see what I did, I come in like a whirlwind, and I painted the entire house because I had a gun and there was nothing in the house, and then I replaced all the flooring, so I didn't have to worry about the flooring and getting carpet on or paint on the floor or anything like that, because I knew I was going to put new carpet down. But when I pulled this rug out, put this throw rug right here, it was hiding this huge ugly stain right here. I mean, it was bad, and I'm thinking now, I'm going, I wonder if the other guy that Marilyn told me about was murdered here. And then in this fireplace, I redid this fireplace with a special paint, but there was a hole here, and I remember telling my mom, I said, it looks like a bullet hole, and Mom says, maybe it was, and I later think maybe Mom knew it was a bullet hole, but either way, they looked like a bullet hole here, and I wondered if the guy was shot right here, died right here. I wonder if Rini Escobar Sanchez died right there. I'm going to talk about him in a minute. But anyway, that's a first day picture, okay? And think back to what it looked like. I'm going to show you some of the other pictures. Here's some other pictures taken the front day. And this is also the living room, because here's the rug right here and going the other way. And one thing I'm pointing out in this picture is a short ladder. I'm going, I wonder if that ladder was used to go underground, that would be interesting. Okay. Here in my bedroom, interesting, this little bitty 1,800 square foot home has an intercom system. What if the intercom system was actually put in because of the underground homes? That's what I would later think about. I just pulled all that old antique stuff out. Okay, this picture I've shown many times. This was in the kitchen. Look at the back door. And the reason I show it is because of this doorknob right here, okay? It's there. But when I met the home inspector here 28 days later, that was gone. It was kicked out. There was a brute force entry. Somebody had forced their way into this house during that month. And the proof was that of this picture showing the doorknob was there. 28 days later, the home inspector documents there's a hole in that door. And, so it documented a brute force entry into this home during the month of October 2008, the same month that Mike died. And I've long suspected that Mike's killers kicked in this door, chased him down, injected him with that Darvocet, and then carried him to Fort Worth. And that was all because they were having the oil show parties the next week. I'm pointing out the gas stove here. Ken Sliger, a former commercial director for my company that lived directly across the street, to mention one time, I remember when your gas stove was put in your kitchen, and and I've shown before outside that the gas line is like this 2-inch line coming into the home. It's just unbelievably large. It had been replaced, and it's not normal. But something was going on with the gas, and I think the gas was taken underground, where the underground homes were at, where they rape and murder little girls at oil show parties. Okay. They had, and steal from me. Keep that in mind. That's theft, theft of services. They just started to replace the floor in the hallway. This is another picture here. Okay, see, that's got this wood flooring. All the trim is gone, okay? And when I first moved here, the guy, and I think it was Sarah's dad, says, yeah, all that trim stacked out there in the garage or something like that, And so I ended up pulling all this out. It had just been laid. They were in the process of laying this wood floor there, and it goes to the front door in front of the foyer right here too. And so I pulled all that out and I put the trim back on. Then we laid just carpet everywhere. And of course, so you can see here where the trim's gone here. And it was also in the bedroom and different places. It was just bizarre. This whole thing was bizarre. It was in the middle of a construction project, is what it looked like. But I'm wondering if that wasn't opened up in here, right here, going underground. I still wonder that, where trap doors in there. Outside wall had fell down, was put back up. I wonder if this came from digging under the home. You see the gap between the trim here and the concrete wall. This whole wall had fell down and was put back up sloppily. I end up, I got a mason here, and we tore it down and rebuilt it again so it doesn't do that anymore, But possibly I wondered if they were digging under the home, and that's what caused that wall to collapse, Extremely odd work going on in this room. This is the room that I'm ambushed and shot in. And what I'm saying here, utility room is where I was ambushed and shot. Half of the ceiling was missing texture, and I wonder if it had been taken out for some reason. Notice the leftover texture on the window. I'm trying to figure out why half of the texture is gone in this room, and it, at the top, like they cut a big old hole in the ceiling, or maybe they dropped a crane down underground. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out why that's like that. This is the room that ambushed and shot in. In this little tiny utility room, I was in there, this room with the ex-wife while we was married, and she asked me one day, she says, "What's different about this room?" And isn't that an odd question, right? So I go around and I talk about how the tiles on the floor, that they didn't finish it, they didn't lay it right, and I'm talking about the texture that's on the ceiling, whatever. None of that, though. That was the answer. The answer was that cabinet was rigged. That was the underground hidden entrance. We now know that was the entrance that Lieutenant Dick. That's how Lieutenant Dickey got inside my home at 11:05 without being seen on the cameras. He come in from the cabinet in this room right here. But this room, like I said, the texture on the ceiling's missing. I don't have a picture here, but I made videos about that before. And then here on the roof was caved in back here behind the chimney, okay? So me and the home inspector, we climbed up in the attic, and that was Perkins Brazier, and we found where the support board for the roof had been taken down before the chimney stack, right there behind the chimney stack. Real odd, and I've often wondered if there isn't a false ceiling, false roof, and that's how they're hiding in there and getting in and out of the house right there. But that was another thing found. And then I'm showing you where the grass wasn't mowed, whatever. But the other thing was the mortar problem on the wall. Okay, see the mortar problem all the way around the house, the brick mortar. And a contractor come over and he told me, he said, this mortar problem is caused from a foundation problem. And that means somebody dug under the home and the home dropped. And when the home dropped, it don't have to drop a fraction of an inch. It cracks that mortar joints in there, and that's where it weathers out, and that's where you had this mortar problem. Well, there's 2 other homes in this neighborhood that have mortar problems like mine, and they also have a water well like mine. I'm thinking that's where some of the other underground homes are at. I was told there were 4 underground homes. And then here, there's weird concrete bricks buried on the outside of this. See, and they'd come in and made this into they took the fence and made it into a gate, which it shouldn't have never been a gate. And you already have a gate. And I took that out. But them bricks there, I wondered if that doesn't hide something in there. So anyway, that's thinking back to when I first moved here. And that's what it's about, okay? A former neighbor, Marilyn Dlugi, told me twice that Mike had died in this house, but she also said that somebody else had died before him. After I agreed to buy this home later in the month, I found a huge stain under that rug and later wondered if that other guy had died there. I also found a hole in the fireplace rock that looked like it came from a bullet. I mentioned that a minute ago. What we're looking at now is from the Midland County Appraisal District for the home at 3803 Fair Circle where Marilyn Dlugi lived directly across the street. I just want to show you, how to spell name. And here's what I had wrote up there at one time on the screenshot. I said, directly across the street from my home, Marilyn is the person who told me twice that Mike died in this home, but his death certificate says he died in Fort Worth. She said that somebody else died here before Mike did. She also told me that her son was really worried about what was going on, and I got the feeling that her son may have been involved. And her son's name is Evan Kuhlman, okay? And so I want to throw that out there, okay? And she bought that home from the relocation company, but it come from Samuel Slager. Okay, that's Ken Slager that worked for my company. He was a commercial director for my company, and that group, his group, took care of the booth at the oil shows. Okay, and after I was ambushed and shot, they walked Ken out the door. They laid him off. Okay. Local businessman Aaron Pachlhofer asked me if I knew the names of the 4 people who had been murdered, died in my home. Okay. Here was a conversation. This guy wasn't even on my friends list. We're not going to read this whole thing, but here's this part. He says, "I'm well aware of the many corruption allegations against the Midland Police Department. I'm not so sure it's secret police as much as pure criminal activity by the police. But if I can ask, there are 4 people who were murdered, died in your home. What are their names?" Okay, amazing. 4 people murdered, died in my homes. And he's asking me the names. I didn't know. But I didn't even know 4 people had died here. This other part over here was just showing that here this Lisa's going, why don't you invite Buddy to a Mason meeting? She was making a point so I would know that Aaron was a Mason here in Midland. Another thing I later found out, Aaron got this $72,000 grant from the city after I made it public that he told me that there were 4 people murdered in my house. And I wondered if that wasn't, some hush money. Here's some hush money. You need to shut up about the 4 people murdered in your home, and the city of Midland will give you $72,000 of taxpayers' money. I really suspect that's what happened, because that's what's going on around here. I wondered if the other person that Marilyn Dlugi told me about dying in my home was Rini Escobar Sanchez, because he was reported missing from Odessa 3 months before Mike Lawhon is suspected of being murdered here. Mike died the week before the 2008 oil show started, and then I moved in as the next unsuspecting victim. Okay, that's when they, got me in here, started planning my murder. Okay, so Rini Escobar Sanchez, here's a picture of him, and July 12th, 2008, October 12th is when Mike Lawhon died. 3 months to the day is when Rini Escobar Sanchez from Odessa is reported missing. His body has never been found. We're going to talk more about that. In 2013, I wrote Odessa Crime Stoppers suggesting they look at my west lawn because I'd smelled a death smell over there when it heat up, and I found cut up clothing fragments half buried over there for about 4 or 5 years. Also wrote a reporter with Odessa American, but nobody looked here, as a guy named Jesus Miguel Venegas confessed to this murder from 4 years earlier. The timing was amazing. Okay, so this is what I'd sent to Odessa Crime Stoppers, and then like I said, as soon as I do, all of a sudden, Jesus 4 years later says, "I got pulled over for a ticket. Let me confess to murder." The weirdest thing you ever heard of, and never found a body. Okay, so anyway, this is what I wrote Crime Stoppers. I was transferred to Midland October that. I bought a home at 3802 Fair. The home was in poor shape, looked like it was abandoned when I bought it. Right after I first moved here, I noticed the smell of something dead on the west side of my home, but I could never locate it. That smell was there for about 6 months. Even walked around the west neighbor's home to see if the smell was coming from there. I said something to Eli Vargas, who is my neighbor to the east. I also found remnants of clothing that was half buried by the fence on this side of my home. I would bet that some of the clothing remnants can still be found there. Since this was 4 years ago, and that was back in 2013, it was prior to me figuring out this home was being broken into repeatedly and being shot from a hidden basement on January 28, 2012. I have overwhelming proof that I was shot from a cabinet in my utility room, but I've been unable to get the local police to do anything about it. Understand that this is not Odessa's police department problem, but the place from where I was shot is the same wall as where the dead body smell was coming from back when I first moved here. I'm not reporting this to bring attention to the hidden basement and the murder attempt of my life, even though that'd be nice, but to alert you that I think it's possible that Rini might have been married on or near my property 4 years later, and all of a sudden the guy confesses with no body. After that, nobody looks here. I had copied and pasted this and sent it to the Odessa American reporter named John Vanderland. Okay, and I seen your article on police corruption, so I thought I'd share my story. This tip was submitted to the Odessa PD on the web form, and it says nobody's contacted me. I would think they haven't contacted. They might want to come look at my home. My yard isn't that big, as you can read. I told them I believe clothing fragments could be still found there. Also wonder if Rini's family had been made aware of this tip. And I'm open to discussing this, etc. And once again, the Odessa American did not return any calls, talk to me, just like many other reporters, I mean, they have the press helping them with these crimes and murders. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely, for sure, the press is involved as a party to helping cover up crimes and murders here. In January 2013, Odessa police officers originally charged Jesus Miguel Venegas with driving with an invalid license, a Class B misdemeanor. A probable cause affidavit stated. After being taken to the detention center, Venegas told law enforcement officials he wanted to talk to detectives about the disappearance of Sanchez, then 36, who was last seen on July 12, 2008. The affidavit stated. After waiving his Miranda warning, Rini then reportedly confessed to killing the man. They did a search off Moss Road one day where it was said he was left, but nobody has ever been found. And I got all that from this article. You can go look at that, wrongful death of Odessa man, under liarcatchers.com. That's where I found that. Okay. Jesus' picture was posted in the news with a huge smile on his face. This is the guy that's confessed to Reni's murder, okay? With a huge smile on his face that looked like he just won the lottery versus going to prison for life. I wondered if he was bribed to confess with promises of a light or no sentence so to keep the underground home secret. Maybe Rini was the guy that Marilyn told me about, and he was shot right there where that gray rug was, and the bullet went into the rock fireplace. Okay, look at him. Just confessed to murder. Man, is he looking happy? Nobody's ever found. Nobody ever comes looks at my house. Ain't that kind of weird? Don't you think that's weird? I later requested from the city of Midland a list of all police calls to this home before I moved here, and I was told there was none. But of course, I had also requested the police report for the night I was shot, and it was illegally withheld from me. It took 7 years before I got it. And I'm just showing you that officially from the city that there's never been any police, or they don't have it in there, and that's what they're saying. There are no records in the city's possession. Okay, that's how they worded that. But basically, that's saying, nobody's ever called the police to that home before. And I know that Mike Lawhon's sister, Susan McGannon, told me that Mike fired a gun here, and the police got called, and he got arrested here. And also when I first looked at this home with my realtor before we even come in here, it was. Janine Pruitt, she told me that Mike was incarcerated because they had arrested him for drugs. I later suspected that he was framed because later, December 20th, 2011, two police officers, Bush and another one, Travis, puts me in a police car that already had a baggie of pot in the back seat and told me we better not be called back here again for this stuff, and they were threatening me that if I called the police for these burglaries and thefts and crimes being committed at my home, that they were going to frame me for drugs. And then Mike Lawhon, I was told was arrested for drugs, before he died, and then so, I was told he was incarcerated for drugs. And then a few weeks later, he died of an overdose. So I didn't think nothing about it, and I mean, now I look back and I'm thinking this whole thing was set up. He was murdered here. Anyway, this is Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.